This is the Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, Bo Cook from Loan Market, BTZD, the official apparel partner of the Paracave Podcast, and the Parramatta Times, the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. My name is Troy Warner and this is the replay chat of the chat that I have with the Duckman on Pulse FM on a Sunday night where we review the round of NRL, and it was round 26 of the NRL this week, and we have a chat about all the games there, some big games this week, and like Panthers versus the Eels, Storm versus Titans, Roosters versus Tigers, crucial games for those teams. Raiders versus Broncos was a cracker of a game, and also the Newcastle Knights versus the Cronulla Sharks as well. Some big injuries to come out of that game, which we talked through some of the different clubs. So some interesting positions on the ladder now as well. That top 8 is slowly forming. There's probably only one spot available, and that is 8th spot. The other positions from 5 to 8, who knows where the teams are going to finish in those positions. So, an interesting round of rugby league. There is only one more regular season round to go. That is round 27, where the top 8 will be decided. So, happy for that one. And look, it was a great weekend for myself. Got a perfect round in the tipping. If you listened to the tipping podcast last week and hopefully you followed the tips, you would have got a perfect round as well. So congratulations to you if you did as well. But anyway, over to you, Duckman. And this is the chat with him on Pulse FM 89.9 FM.
All right, there we go. So that was a bit of Barbie Girl. Everyone's probably thinking, what Duckman play Barbie Girl for? Number one, got Hots Felina Nystrom, right? So very attractive lady. It's a pretty cool song, boppy and all that sort of stuff. Number two, Aqua came out and announced today that they got another world tour and they're going to be coming back to Australia again. First time since 1999, and I was at the last concert in Darling Harbour when they played on the big seashell thing in the middle there in 1999. Went down there with my girlfriend at the time. We're having a bit of a chuckle about it today. It's pretty funny. Nearly 25 years ago now. Now I feel old. So anyway, here we go. Got Troy Warner on from the Paracave Podcast. Troy, how you going?
I'm going fantastic, Duckman. Not really as excited as you are about Barbie Girl and Aqua, but excited about the NRL. We've just had round 26 finish. We've had some major injuries in the NRL. I got a perfect round in the tipping comp, so I'm excited. So let's rip in. Let's get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got to be pretty happy you got a full round too, so that's always a good thing if you're in the comp and it's close.
Yeah, that's it. Look, it was a bit of a hard decision on Thursday night, the first game, but I think that's where most people went wrong in their tips, but I stuck solid with the Eels in their last game of the year and got the chocolates on that night.
Yeah, there you go. So the Panthers took on the Eels at Penrith was that Penrith too, wasn't it, on Thursday night?
Certainly was, yeah.
And the Eels got up 32-18, so they put on a really good display to get out in front. I didn't see the game because I was on radio for most of the time the game was on. I did see they got out to, 24 points to 4 or 24 points to 6 lead, and the Panthers run them down a bit, but the game was well and done and dusted by that time. It was never going to get run down.
Yeah, absolutely. It was 22-4 at half-time. A Micah Sevo triple in the first half, followed by a Clint Gutherson double. and then another Michael Sevo try in the second half was their 6 tries of the game. But as you said, Penrith, they scored 1 try in the first half, and then they scored a few late tries in the game. But Parramatta, they came out with all guns blazing in their last game of the season, and they just really showed what they can do when they want to do it. Unfortunately, they haven't done it enough this year, and they won't be playing finals. For Penrith, they probably went they went into the game favourites, massive favourites. It was, I think, 21,000 there on a Thursday night. It was a sellout. It was a first Thursday night sellout, I think, and they were expecting to win this game and just try and keep up with that minor premiership race with the Brisbane Broncos. Major concern for the Panthers is Jerome Luai, dislocated shoulder. He was going over the line and Bryce Cartwright's come down on his shoulder. So major concern there for Jerome Luai heading into the finals, and Penrith heading into the finals. Not too sure how many weeks he'll be out for at the moment.
Yeah, I did hear someone say they reckon he's going to be available for the preliminary final. Like, trying to think, one's the preliminary final, the game before the grand final or the next match for Penrith? Because Penrith will potentially could finish as low as third if they lose again and the Warriors can win. The Penrith differential is miles above anybody else. I genuinely don't think they're too concerned about dropping a minor premiership because they're probably going to finish second, and it gives them a bit of an easy chop the next week. And even if they lose, they're going to get another bite of the cherry anyway.
Yeah, look, the Panthers, will finish in second position, even if they lose against the Cowboys this week, because as you said, their differential is way dominant than the Warriors, even if they do finish on the same points. So they'll still finish in second position. They may finish in first. It depends on results. But the preliminary final, I think, is in about 4 weeks' time. It is the game before the grand final, so we've got 1 week to go in the regular competition and then 4 weeks of finals, which includes the grand final. So I think it's about 4 weeks away, the prelim final. So it all depends on how much of a clean dislocation it is and what the doctors say. So he'll definitely be out for a good 2-3 weeks, I would say.
Yeah, I would think I wouldn't even be pressuring him to come back at the moment. If they make the grand final, he'll be there and be available. But yeah, 4 weeks is not a bad estimate, and that's a pretty quick turnaround, really. I wouldn't push that because I think that this has got potential to be much worse. If he got injured again, that's it. He's done till sometime next year, easy as. So
well, we've got Penrith have got Jack Cogger to come in and fill that spot. He's played a few games this year, and it certainly is a big blow for Penrith, but they've got the cattle to come in and do that. One thing I will just say is Michael Sevo scored 4 tries against the Panthers. He's the first Eel to score 4 tries against the Panthers in a game.
Yeah, and the other thing is the Eels have got the best record against Penrith in the last 6 matches, got 4 wins in 6 games, and no one else has got better than 2. So,
yeah, but as many Penrith fans say, yeah, but you can't get them in the big games. So, but we can get you in the regular games. So we'll take that and end the season on a high.
Yeah, that's got to make the most of what you actually have, right? So. The big games, as I've been reminded from time to time when I'm playing in big games, oh, mate, no one cares if you beat this team and did this and this and your team looked brilliant. You lost the semi-final or you lost the grand final, and that's all I look at like, yeah, right, okay. So I would have turned that around the corner a bit, but there you go. They just looked, oh, well, this is how they did. So I'm not too worried about the backstory. Friday night. So this was interesting, both these Friday night games. We'll go to the first one here. Warriors up against the Dragons. So the Warriors come out, they had a good game. They got the win there, 18 points to 6. They had to play very hard because the Dragons just really aimed for a change. I have to say that. They aimed up. The inconsistency is going to hurt the Dragons. So that's why they're sitting down near the bottom of the ladder. Like, they can aim up when they need to. They just can't do it week in, week out.
Yeah, look, this was another sellout over in New Zealand, and it's great to see the fans getting some value for money over there. The Warriors are flying at the moment. They're the hottest ticket in town in New Zealand, and they got another win against the Dragons. They scored a couple of early tries to get off to a good lead, and then unfortunately and then it was a bit of a sort of a sour game. There wasn't many points scored. Adam Fanua-Blake scored a try 6 minutes from the end. Zach Lomax got a try for the Dragons in the 61st minute. But look, full credit to the Warriors. They march on, and it looks like they will probably finish in third position on the table. So an amazing turnaround from that team from previous years. Obviously, we know that they spent the last couple of years in Australia due to the pandemic. Now they're back at home. They're getting sellout crowds. They like to call it the blackout over there. When they run out, it's all blacked out, and it looks fantastic. And look, they're going to be hard to beat in a home semi-final. If they get one, they'll obviously play the second place side in the competition, and that'll be away from home. But if they lose that, then they'll play at home somewhere in New Zealand, maybe not at Go Media Stadium, as it only holds, I think, 26,000 or something like that. So they're looking to move that to a bigger venue. And look, the Dragons, their season is slowly coming towards an end, and a disappointing one for them, coming second last at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. So, the Warriors will be happy. They will end up with a semi-final game here at home, so one way or another. If they win, they get a finals game at home. If they lose, they'll get a finals game at home as well, because they've finished in the top four. So it's a pretty good drop for them, really. They've done an outstanding job. Andrew Webster's surely going to be close to coach of the year. And speaking about the Dragons, we'll throw one thing in here. I'm not sure if I mentioned it before. Zach Lomax is supposed to be on the boil, and it looked like they might be giving him the flick. So there's been a bit of mail about that in the last couple of weeks there.
I think 2024 coach Shane Flanagan has said that Zach Lomax is going to stay at the club now, along with Ben Hunt. So I think he's got those two players next year. So I think that's probably gone off the radar a little bit.
Yeah, it's a good step forward, really. The Dragons need those guys. Zach Lomax, is he going to keep playing 5'8"? But I'm not sure. I would look at other options. So other options could include fullback, and would definitely include one of the centre spots. So where can you get the best bang for your buck out of Zach Lomax in the side they got? To work with it, see how that goes. The Dolphins on Friday, they took on the Cowboys. If they won, Cowboys season was all done and dusted. They didn't get the win. They've gone off the boil a little bit lately. They're struggling as a bit. They'll be very happy with their first season, but they went down the other night, 34 points to 10 against Cowboys.
Yeah, well, this game was played at Suncorp Stadium, and they got another good crowd there, 33,000. And look, it was a must win for the Cowboys as they stay in that race for that 8th position on the ladder. And they play the Panthers this week. So this game was a must win game, and they just really needed to win it and do everything they could to win it. So they had a couple of milestone men play games in there. I think Peter Hiku was one of them. I think playing 200 games for the in the NRL. So congratulations to him. And we all know when the players have a milestone game, they tend to stand up and try and get the win for them. The Dolphins, look, they've had probably a disappointing year due to their standards, coming 14th in the competition at the moment. They started off the season really well, having some wins in a row, and especially that first win against the Roosters in their first ever game in the NRL. But then they had a few injuries and suspensions, and an Origin came along, and so they'll be disappointed about their season that they've had. They finish off playing the Warriors next week, so that'll be a big game, or a hard game for them to win against the Warriors. And look, they can build on this year. They've got a couple of good signings coming next year. I think Tom Flegler and also Herbie Farnworth from the Broncos. So they've got some good cattle coming along. I think Jake Averillo from the Bulldogs as well. So they've got a couple of new players coming into the side, and they're going to look, to build on this season and hopefully get closer to that 8th position.
Yeah, that's right. So I think I would rate their performance not quite as good as the Broncos in their first year. Better be right up there, right? So they've done a very, very good job. They didn't have anywhere near the quality players that Brisbane had to start with. And I know some of Brisbane's players developed into international players, so these guys could do the same. But Brisbane also had Jane Miles, Greg Konescu, Greg Dowling, Wally Lewis, all in their first year. Joe Kilroy, they had all these guys that have been at Brian Niebling, guys that have been there, done it before. So they weren't going in inexperienced altogether. I think they had Chris Johns as well, Terry Madison. So that was a pretty experienced side, whereas the Dolphins are much more inexperienced side. For what they've got and what they did, I think they can take the hats off to them. So they've done quite a good job, because they could have easily slipped away. If they slipped away at the start, they would be down near the bottom near the Tigers. Yeah, they're only a little bit above them now, but they're a lot of points above them. So 3 or 4 more wins here or there, they may well be contesting the top 8 as well, but that's how it goes. We'll kick on anyway. The next game here, so the Storm, they know when to pull out the big ones and when to come out firing, and they did against the Titans. 37 points to 16 winners, although Jerome Hughes is injured, and now they're going to have a few problems with that.
Yeah, so he's one of the major stars in the NRL for a finals-bound team that is on the injured list at the moment, a knee injury, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes. He won't be playing next week against the Broncos, so we'll just have to wait and see whether it's 1, 2 or 3 weeks injury, see if he can come back for the Storm. It'd be a massive loss for them at this time of the year, but this was Ryan Pappenhausen's comeback game, and he got 19 minutes off the bench, and he looked okay. He looked not too bad, and it's a bit of a selection headache now, I think, for Craig Bellamy, but as we know, he's a master coach, so he will have a plan in place, whether you play him at fullback and maybe Nick Meaney on a wing, or maybe he can go onto the bench and Ryan Pappenhausen start. So a few of the experts have said that they'd leave Paps on the bench and leave Nick Meaney there, because he's done such a great job this year. He's also the goal kicker as well for the Melbourne Storm. So and their wingers have been playing well as well. So if you're going to drop Will Warbrick, or you're not going to drop Xavier Coates, so he scored a triple on the weekend. So it's going to be an interesting selection. I think they'll probably go with the same way that they went this week, with Ryan Pappenhausen on the bench, and he can come on and play lock, he can play fullback, he can play in the halves, he can play anywhere that's required. He sort of did that when he first started at the Melbourne Storm, because he had a few fullbacks in front of him. So I think they'll go with that next week. But they've got a big clash against the Broncos next week, and that should be a great game. The Titans, well, they stuck in there for a while with the Melbourne Storm, but then the class of the Storm just took over, and the Titans, they looked like they were tired, and they fell away, and the Storm took over and put some tries on, put some points on.
Yeah, so Des Hasler will be pretty happy with what's happening with the Titans. A bit disappointed they dropped off there. Ryan Pappenhausen, I would keep playing him off the bench at the moment, maybe into the semis as well. Just let him keep slowly building up. So he played 19 minutes. Next week he might play 35, 40 minutes. So let him build up, play maybe 50, 60 minutes, and then let him build up a bit more. Once it gets into like the second finals game, if he's played like 50 or 60 minutes by that time, well, surely you might be thinking, yeah, he might be sweet to go. So you can have a look what you do with him then. So there's no urgent rush. So you rush him back and he's not 100% right, well, he's going to have fatigue and all these sorts of things. So they've got to get match condition. The only way you can get that is being on the paddock. So he's not going to be able to play 80 minutes yet. Apparently,
Des Hasler was down in Melbourne watching this game, watching his side for next year run around. So I hope some of the players there impressed him, and So, yeah, that was a word coming out of Melbourne, and, yeah, they roll on.
Yeah, 100%. All right, we'll look at the next game here. So the Roosters, I don't know how they managed to get themselves in a position where they can still make the 8 at the moment. So because the wheels fell off the car ages ago, and they managed to drag it together. I can't say that I'm particularly... So they won 32-8 against West Tigers, and Joey Manu got injured. And I don't particularly like Joey Manu, so I don't feel bad about it. Maybe I'm a bad person, but I don't feel bad about it. I don't really like the guy. I think he's very arrogant, and it just grinds me the wrong way.
Okay. No, well, he's a fantastic player, and I think results of scans today have said that he is more than likely going to play against the Rabbitohs on Friday night in what's going to be a cracker of a game. The winner of that game will get into the 8. Because I don't think that the Panthers will lose to the Cowboys, even if they do rest a couple of players. So this is the battle for the top 8. In this game, however, against the Tigers, they really sort of stood up for a long period of time, and much like the Titans, then they just fell away, and the Roosters came back and scored a lot of points. Sam Walker, it was his return to the NRL after, I think his last game was in round 7, after being injured and then playing New South Wales Cup. Scored a great try as well in this game. Suoliti, he really had a good game, scored a try, kicked some goals, and another big talking point out of this game, along with the Joey Manu injury, was the Jared Waria-Hargreaves sin binning. So
the headbutts.
Yeah, so he's copped 2 charges, a late tackle on Api Coruscant, and also leading with the head, I think. So I think there's 3 weeks for each charge. So for an early guilty plea, so he's looking at 6 weeks on the sideline, which is, look, they've only got 1 game to go in the regular season. If they win that, then they'll play finals. I don't know how deep in the finals they can go. So it more than likely looks like Jared's season is over. I don't know how he's going to try and maybe get out of that one too, because the Roosters are playing over in Las Vegas next year, round 1. So if he can maybe include some test matches in that game for New Zealand at the end of the year, then he might be right for round 1 next year over in Las Vegas, because he'll miss out on that one for sure.
Yeah, otherwise, I reckon the Roosters will have about 12 trial games just to say suspension. So some other way is a sketchy method to do it. So, but
yeah,
seems to work. So
yeah, that's it.
We'll kick on to the next game here. So these guys, I can tell. So Ricky Stewart just told everybody, nice camera shot of him telling everybody how much he loves them, thanks them for their support. The Raiders took on the Broncos and went down 29-18. So the side that's got to be probably scared the most here in the top 8, regardless of the Rabbitohs all over the place at the moment, can't work out if they're going to be in or out, depending on how it goes next week. The Raiders, they've got the most to lose, because if the Roosters win and the Cowboys actually do beat Penrith, they've got problems. They're not going to make the 8 because their differential is garbage at the moment. So it's minus 118 or something. They got the worst out of everybody, and they're going to get fired straight on out of the final series. Yeah,
well, the Raiders, they may slip out of the top 8 altogether, as you said. Obviously, the winner of the Rabbitohs-Roosters game will get into the 8, and as you said, if the Cowboys do beat Penrith, then they'll get into the 8 as well. Because of that differential, they'll end up on the same points as the Raiders. So this game was like a finals game 2 weeks early, and the Broncos coming off a bye, coming off a big win against Parramatta the week before that. They had a few injuries out of this game. They had 2 players that didn't play in this game. There was Pat Carrigan and Adam Reynolds as well. Reynolds is looking likely that he'll play in the finals game. He may not play next week. Pat Carrigan could be 2 to 3 weeks, could be longer. It's just a matter of how quickly his foot can heal up to play, so that's a big loss for the Broncos. Reece Walsh, he said after the game that he had a grade 1 carry on about his knee after scoring a try. So I don't think there's any major concern there. But the Raiders, well, they'll be ruining this opportunity to win a game down at home, especially when that was the last game at home for Jack Whiten and Jared Croker as well, who's retiring at the end of the year, and putting themselves in that precarious position of maybe this is a must-win game against the Sharks this week just to stay in that top 8.
Absolutely. So I would have thought that Joseph Tapani's hit on Reece Walsh might have fired him up and got him going, but it didn't look like it did. So
well, that was
he's
right
running the ball and looked like what happened there? Because all I saw was Reece Walsh ran through a bit for everyone to imagine it, and then to try to catch the clip, and he slowed down and paused like he hurt his hamstring or something. And then Tapani's like, "Yeah, I don't care. You're playing football, buddy."
Yeah.
And he put a hit on him and chopped him. It was a great hit.
It was right at the end of the game. As I said, Reece was sort of worried about his knee just after scoring that try, but he got the ball right at the end of the game, and he sort of ran across field, and then he sort of stopped and out of the corner of his eye, he didn't see Joseph Tapani come across and absolutely smash him. And then a few of the players didn't like that, but in my opinion, it was probably play on because the whistle hadn't been blown, and players are taught to play to the whistle. And look, he's got the ball. He had a chance to go off after he scored that try if he needed to, if he wanted to, if he thought he was injured. He could have just grabbed the ball and just run over the sideline. That's how close the clock was to the end of the game. So he's decided to stay on the field. And look, if he was majorly injured, like we saw Tom Trbojevic a few years ago pull up lame with a hamstring injury, then you could understand that it could have been a bit of a cheap shot. But the way that he had the ball and running, I guess it was play on.
Yeah, but I remember when Joseph, now this is what upsets me about Joseph Manu. I remember when he did that for the Roosters last year. But, my hamstring, and he slowed down. And Saints went, don't smash him. And they let him go, and he trotted off and scored a try in the corner. Then he had to get subbed. Yeah. The guy would have been picking his teeth out of the ground, and I would have belted him, so I wonder if his leg's still attached. So, like that really grated me the wrong way when he did that.
The other turning point of the game was Jordan Rapana got 10 in the sin bin as well for, I guess you could call it a striking motion, a trip maybe, when Selwyn Cobbo was in the act of scoring. So he stuck his foot out, he's connected with Selwyn, and he ended up with 10 in the bin as well. So there's a few on Jordan's side, there's a few against him as well about that. So that was another controversial moment that came out of the game.
Alan Langer used to do those things too, though, for a long period of time. So know where guys get it from is that they try to just stick their foot out to stop you, like with momentum. Like, I don't think it's deliberately like trying to kick him in the head or anything, but they just things happen, right?
It's only going to get harder too for the Raiders as well. There was reports today that Jamal Fogarty is injured as well, so it's only going to get harder for them moving forward. So not too sure about the extent of the injury, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, if Penrith beat Cowboys next week, I wouldn't be relying on the Raiders will need to beat the Sharks. There'll be no other alternative. They have to beat the Sharks. That'll be it. If they don't, they're gone. The next game here, Bulldogs up against the Seagulls. So Bulldogs went all right for a while here in this game today, although the Seagulls looked like they trotted away for easy in the end. I didn't catch the game, but I was tracking the score. And the Seagulls got up there 42-24, but it was a better performance from the Bulldogs by the look of it, although they still did let them get 42 points. They look pretty good attack-wise, the Bulldogs at the moment. And the Seagulls must be thinking, seriously, another year where we probably could have made the top 8 and we just dropped too many games early in the year.
Yeah, well, the Seagulls, they were flying in the first bit of the year. They were hanging around that 8. They were in the 8, and then they just sort of lost a few games, and then they sort of fell away a little bit again during that Origin period, and also injuries as well. I mean, the most notable one is Tommy Trbojevic, so that's the most notable one. But the Bulldogs, they scored the first try today, but then they never looked like they were in the game after that. The Seals just took over. Daly Cherry-Evans, he had a great game, setting up tries, scoring a try himself and kicking goals as well. Sort of the Bulldogs season showed when Matt Burton failed to find touch, and then a few tackles later Manly scored a try. So that's sort of how their season went. But listening to Daly Cherry-Evans after the game, it's sort of like it's disappointing that we could put on this sort of result today. We were just playing footy because we can't make the finals. It's disappointing that we can't make finals and the way we couldn't play this way all year, but it's obviously something to build on next year. And look, it was an entertaining game for the fans, lots of points scored, and at the end of the game they got to go on the field at a core stadium.
Yeah, it's good. Do you think Stephen Crichton will be ruining the decision to sign for the Bulldogs for next year from Panthers?
No, I don't think so. He's obviously going there on a good wage, and I think he's won premierships. He's played in State of Origin. He obviously plays for his country as well. So, nah, I don't think so. I think this will just be another challenge for him. He'll probably more than likely go back into that fullback position, so he'll have a lot more ball and sort of freedom as well. I don't think he will. I mean, he's got his good mate Matty Burton there and Viliami Kikau there as well, so a couple of ex-Penrith players. So, no, I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, he's going to add a lot to the Bulldogs, I can tell you that right now. The last game here at the round, so the sneaky secrets in the comp here tonight, so like early in the year, seriously, Adam O'Brien was one of two coaches I pegged to get sacked, and he didn't get sacked. He dodged a bullet. It surprised me because he's got the Knights really humming along here. 32 points to 6 winners today over the Sharks. Saying that Nico Hines was out injured, but the Knights, if they can win the first game in the finals, that they might actually get to at least a preliminary final. I think they've got a decent chance here to go on with it.
Yeah, well, this was their 8th win in a row, and as you said, Adam O'Brien, he was under a lot of pressure a couple of months ago to retain his position, but whatever happened, they've turned it around, and now they've won 8 in a row. They've guaranteed themselves a final spot. They will get a home final week 1. They'll either finish 5th or 6th on the ladder, depending on results. If they can beat the Dragons next week, which you would think they would. One major concern that came out of the game is Kalen Ponga went off late in the game injured. Not too sure about the extent of that injury at the moment. It could be just an injury that he can play with painkilling injections, so it might be a tough month of football ahead for Kalen. But look, he was a difference once again, in this Knights team. It was 6-all at half-time, and you thought, okay, this is a sellout crowd. 2 weeks in a row, you thought, okay, it's old boys' day at Newcastle. What's going on? Newcastle should be winning by a bit, but at the start of the game, the Sharks stood up and they scored the first try to Connor Tracy, and then they had one disallowed to Britton Okora, and after that, they sort of just were never in the game. And as I said, 6-all at half-time. Half-time was probably the best thing for Newcastle because they came out and scored tries and got another win, 8 in a row, and secured a final spot and a home final as well. So they could, as you said, you never know, they could do some damage in the finals. I don't know their record against the top teams, but stranger things have happened.
Yeah, that's right. They've got a bit of a soft game next week, really. They've got the Dragons, so you'd think they're going to get the win there and maybe lock up 5th. So I just had a look at the points for and against, right? So, because I like looking at those sorts of weird anomalies. If the Raiders can beat the Sharks next week by about 141 points, they can potentially lock up fifth spot. If they lose and the Cowboys win, and the Roosters win, they're gone. If South win and if the Cowboys win, they're gone. So that's it. So because surely the Roosters and Souths aren't going to have a draw. So that would be the only thing that'll keep them in, is if that fell over and became a draw. But how weird would that be if it was a draw? So
well, I think there's only been one draw this season, and that was Newcastle and Manly, I think. So Newcastle are on an odd number of points due to that draw. So you never know. Could be a draw somewhere. Yeah.
So that a draw. So if the Cowboys win, so what the Raiders need to have happen here, they need to hope that the Cowboys actually win and the Rabbitohs and Roosters draw. Then they'll both miss out on the top 8. That would be the world's most bitter pill for them. So, I like looking at all these weird anomalies. So I chatted to you earlier on about finding some weird stats. So trying to find some guys that have played one game play. So there's been 56 from stats I could find in NRL stats, but you reckon I can get that list of 56? I can't. So we'll talk about a couple of significant guys that only played one game in the NRL. There was one that played in the grand final. I cannot remember who it was. I'm pretty sure I played for Canterbury or West, so it was in the 50s or 60s. And, I do remember reading about it. I cannot find it for now, but let's talk about two guys who did play one game, Greg Smith and Paul Kent, and their insignificant or significant careers. So you've heard the story about Paul Kent, about his one game, how he got that, don't you?
Yeah, that was Peter Sterling was injured, I think, at the time, and I think he only got 10 minutes or something because he went off with injury, I think, playing that game.
Yeah.
I think it was against North Sydney at Parramatta Stadium. So,
So I heard he got pulled off the field. They dragged him off because he was playing not a good game, and I said, you were never going to play, but I wanted to keep, so they wanted to stack the reserve grade, so someone was eligible for reserve grade, so it meant he had to play, and that's just a balancing the books with the players, actually, and he got that. Didn't play a great game, and it's a bit insignificant. It's funny, because I'm pretty sure he's got some substantial point-scoring records up on the Central Coast for points in a season, tries, goals, all this sort of stuff. He was a fairly good player, even though questionable some of his journalism from time to time. He is good. He does get lots of good stories. So it's been an insignificant career. So the other one is Greg Smith. Do you remember Greg Smith, the Newcastle guy? Yeah,
I do. I think he was brought up on the Matty John show last week, but I do remember at the time, it was 1999 at what was called then Stadium Australia, I think it was, against Canterbury. Had an absolute shocker. I think Warren Ryan brought him into the side. I think Warren coached the USA Sevens team, and he got him to Newcastle, and had an absolute shocker of a game, and never to be seen again in the NRL. One game, Greg Smith.
Yeah, let 3 tries in 5 minutes, got subbed, and then that was it after 18 minutes. So it comes with a really good idea here from Alan McMahon. So Steve Crow reckons that they said as well, who's the Knights football manager now, just looking at this, said, he did great. They sent guys out there. There's another one too, Adrian Bubb, played front row against Balmain. They said they went out there and just told them, give it your best and go out there and bash people. And he got belted up as well. But I said Greg Smith is very quick, has vague recollections about his ability, but dreadful defensively. So he said he wouldn't be good in touch football either. So that's not a real big rap there. Pretty big shot across the bow, that one.
Yeah, I have found another one. A guy by the name of Shea Moylan played one game for the Brisbane Broncos in 2011. It was a week after his 23rd birthday against the Raiders, and it was a bit of a mixed performance. He scored a try, but there was many handling errors, but the Broncos ran out winners in that game.
Yeah, there you go. So, so there's a few of these. We'll try to find some weird, but I've seen a couple of others here, but I'm not going to worry about dragging them in now. There's a couple where they've had one game and been sent off or have weird things happen. So we'll try to find these anomalies and keep looking at that. What do you got coming up on the Paracade podcast this week, Troy?
Well, this week I'll have the replay of this chat come out tomorrow. I'll have a tipping podcast come out on Tuesday. Wednesday we'll just have the continuation of the Andrew Walker interview podcast. Thursday there'll be a interview style podcast with Keegan Hipgrave coming out, former Gold Coast Titans and Parramatta Eels player. And no more Parramatta Eels game day previews because the Eels are finished for the year, so that no more game day previews for the Eels. But obviously our chat on Friday will come out on Saturday, so a few podcasts coming out this week.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good to see. Who was the one you did one with someone the other day? Who was that? Andrew Walker. That looked like that was a good one.
Yeah, former Manly Sea Eagles, Roosters and Dragons. Yep. Australia's first Indigenous dual international. So he actually did it the other way. He went from rugby league. He played for Australia in 1996 against PNG. And then he went to rugby union and played for the Wallabies in early 2000. I think 2000 was his first test against the All Blacks. So Australia's first Indigenous player to do that. So, and a player that Brad Fittler and Gus Gould have come out and said that he is the most gifted natural player that they've seen play rugby league anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think he's right up there. So did you ask him about, I'm pretty sure his first grade debut in rugby league, was it for the Dragons or whoever it was? He got sent off in his first game. He come out and was playing fullback and had a one-on-one tackle with someone. I think it was for the Dragons, right? Someone chipped and chased the ball over top of him and tried to go for the ball and stuck his leg out and it tripped him and he got sent off because they didn't get a try from that. So he got sent off on the spot. Interesting anomaly, that one. So,
great player. Great player and really interesting chat. So that one's available now on Apple and Spotify. And if you want to watch the interview as well, it's also on YouTube as well under the Paracade podcast banner.
There you go. That's all good. Troy, thanks very much for your time. We'll catch up with you again next Friday night for sure. I'll give you a cue up to what we'll talk about next week. I want to try to find... we'll go after something different. So forwards or props, someone that's got some weird sort of point scoring records or something. So take Menzies out of it for tries. I want to look at forwards or someone's done something I'll find something. I'll think of something that would be an interesting quirk in the rugby league circles there for us to have a chat about as well.
No worries, Duckman. You let me know what it is. I'll get my researching done and be right for a Friday or Sunday. Don't worry about that. Yeah. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Always my pleasure and look forward to that. I'll chat to you later in the week.
Thanks, Duckman.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Paracade Podcast. See you next time.